Chris Philp, what's your reaction to the events overnight in Washington?
Well, it's always shocking when a democratically elected politician gets attacked in this way. It's an attack not just on an individual, but an attack on democracy. I'm pleased, of course, that Donald Trump is unharmed and that the perpetrator has been apprehended. Let's hope we pretty quickly find out what the motivation was. But it is always shocking when someone who's puts themselves up for election, gets elected, then gets attacked. It is an affront to democracy itself.
Does it concern you at all that this, what seems to be increasingly routine violence against politicians in the United States might start to be reflected here and across Europe?
Well, I think lots of, particularly Labour politicians at the last election, were targeted by people on the Gaza issue, often quite aggressively. Kate Holland, the former Labour MP, I think it was for Blackburn, suffered some terrible abuse at the hands of people who were expressing very strong views on Gaza during the last election. That is deeply concerning. Political violence has no place in our politics, and anyone who practices intimidation for a political purpose here in the UK should suffer the full force of the law.
The King heads for the United States this week. What would you advise the King, were you in government, to say to Mr Trump about the Argentine claim on the Falklands?
Well, His Majesty, of course, needs no advice from me. He'll handle the situation superbly. But on the Falklands, they are British sovereign territory. The Falkland Islands want to remain British. The Argentinians have no legitimate claim to them whatsoever, and any British government should be robustly defending them. I haven't yet heard Keir Starmer, in my view, make a strong enough statement on that. They are British and we will defend them, as we did in 1982, and the government should be ensuring that all of the military hardware necessary is located on those islands right now to defend them, because one of the mistakes that was made in the early 1980s was the Argentinians thought the British government didn't have the resolve to defend the Falkland Islands. So a message needs to be very clearly heard in Buenos Aires. They are British and we do have the resolve to defend them.
Well, the Argentinians may be looking at a different sort of signal. They know for a fact, because it is true, that we cannot assemble the task force we did in 1983. That was 1982, I beg your pardon. 26,000 people, 70 aircraft, 127 ships. Would you like to apologise to the Falkland Islanders for the 14 years in which you hollowed out the defence, our defences, and left them defenceless?
Well, I would like to point out we do have 2 aircraft carriers equipped with F-35Bs.
We can't even get them as far as the Gulf.
Well, we have 2 aircraft carriers, but the point is we do need to spend more on defence, Trevor, for the reason you mentioned. There's only one political party committing to get to 3% of defence expenditure by the end of this Parliament. That is the Conservatives. We have a plan to get rid of this ridiculous two-child, or reinstate, rather, the two-child welfare cap. That will save sufficient money that will fund 20,000
All
extra...
that's going to go to defence?
20,000 extra troops from the putting the welfare cap back in place, and 3% of GDP by 2029. The Conservatives are the only party with a serious, detailed plan to restore defence expenditure. And this incident in the Falklands, but of course also what's happening in Iran, Ukraine and so on, makes the point that properly funding defence is so important. The government, the Labour government, haven't even published their defence investment plan that should have been published a year ago. Okay. They are not serious, but we are.
Just as you're here, you're Shadow Home Secretary, would you like to take an opportunity to pay a gracious tribute to Shabana Mahmood, under whose watch the small boat channel crossings are down a third, something that neither her Labour nor Tory predecessors achieved?
Well, the numbers in the last few weeks have been down to the weather. The channel has been very rough. Taking the Labour record as a whole, 70,000 people have illegally crossed since the general election. That is more under Keir Starmer than any other Prime Minister. The numbers are up by 45% after the election compared to before. This deal last week hands over £500 million of our money, Trevor, with no strings attached at all. We're only going to end the crossings when we leave the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, which will enable us to deport every illegal immigrant within a week of arrival. Then the crossings will pretty soon...
You can't even be nice when she's doing what you want her to do.
Well, what I want is her to pull out of the ECHR and deport all illegal immigrants within a week of arrival. Then the crossings will stop. But both Shabana Mahmood and Keir Starmer are too weak to do that.